hanging out with peers. This is exactly what we're doing
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
So let's open up the round, and please shoot questions. This is supposed to be an open dialogue. Who wants to begin?
Yeah, for sure. So again, what Christoph said already, we were deeply impressed by what we saw with the Gear Factory. It's fantastic to see that. One question which I find very interesting, since we are in the business of connectivity, and I once heard you saying that connected cars, autonomous driving, what infrastructure do you need? And your answer, I think it was like, we take what we get, which is a bit disappointing for us because we have such great 4G, 5G, and want to hear that it needs to be connected.
Sure.
What is your perspective on connectivity, bandwidth you need for the car, for the future? And then another question to it, how do you stay ahead? Because I think you were the first one to understand that electromobility could be big and will be big, and it's the right way, it's good efficiency. How do you stay ahead of the others? Because now everybody's coming. I think the biggest stimulus of electromobility is coming from competition, because they all move in. That
Sure.
means you're the original, you are ahead. How do you stay ahead with battery and with concepts, software platform?
Sure. Well, our cars have been connected almost from the beginning, from the early Roadsters. We put cell modem even in the early Roadsters, our very first cars.
I bought the first one in Austria.
Okay, great, thanks. So we started off, I think it was 2G at the time or something, and now our cars are about to transition to 5G and everything. So it's important to have a connected car so you can update the software and you can do remote analysis. So a lot of the problems can be solved with the software update. I mean, our car is extremely adaptable. It's basically like a computer on wheels, and so that this means like less time that people have to go to a service center, and also the car can diagnose its problems, tell the service center ahead of time. We can stock the parts, and then we can be much more efficient about service. And you can also watch any TV on the car, so it has high-speed data connectivity. You can watch really any show you want on the car.
Is it a specific entertainment platform, or you just take anything out of the internet?
Yeah, we just worked with Netflix and Disney and everyone else, and just made it available. There's also a web browser, so you can technically watch anything that's on the internet as well. And it also has video games. I think entertainment is going to become extremely important, especially as we move to fully autonomous cars. If the car is driving itself, then what are you going to do while you're driving? Probably you want entertainment, maybe some productivity stuff.
And the autonomous driving you just do with some sensors, LiDAR, radar, etc. This, or do you need more?
We believe just cameras are the way to go. We don't use LiDAR at all. The entire road network is designed for passive optical, essentially vision. So in order to make a car drive properly, you have to solve vision. And at the point at which you solve vision, you really don't need any other instruments. Like a careful driver, human driver, can drive with an extremely good track record. And unlike a computer, unlike a human, the computer does not get tired. It has 360-degree surround cameras. It's got 3 cameras pointing forward. So it's like being able to see with the eyes in the back of your head, basically. So it's really, vision is the way to go. There's some value to active optical for a wavelength that's occlusion penetrating, so it can see through fog or rain or dust. But it has to be high resolution, such that you can rely on, like for example, for radar at roughly 4 millimeter wavelength. This is good for occlusion penetration, but it needs to have enough resolution to know that you're braking for a real object and not just a bridge or a manhole cover or something like that.
How do you stay ahead? Yeah, sure.
No, let's go ahead. Last question, and then we move on to Olivier. No, maybe just finish the last question they asked. How do you stay ahead? How do you keep
I don't know if we'll stay ahead. Maybe we won't stay ahead. I just think about how we can improve the experience for the owner of the car. How can we make it the most fun, the most functional? What can we do to have them love the product as much as possible?
Yeah.
And if somebody else makes a better product, then more power to them. Then I guess we should lose.
Yeah. Okay.
Good
Yes,
answer. Please, Olivier.
We at Chernow, we really believe that we can improve the quality of life in the cities, and we love cars, really. We really love cars, but we also believe car sharing is something who makes the usage of car much more efficient, for sure. And also, it makes really affordable, even a very expensive car, if you only have to pay it for a minute or minute base or hourly base, it's really, I would say, something you can do whatever money you have. What would be very interesting for us, because we always try to look into the future, also in our business, very important, and to innovate what we do in the mobility area is how do you see mobility in 20 years, especially in urban areas? And maybe you have the one or other ideas who would also help us to further develop our product.
Well, I think in 20 years, almost every car made will be fully autonomous. And almost every car made will be electric. This does not mean that the whole fleet will be electric or the whole fleet will be autonomous, because the annual production rate of new cars and trucks at full speed is around 100 million units a year. But there's 2 billion cars and trucks in active use, and that number is rising. So that's basically, it takes 20 years from the point at which 100% of all vehicle production is electric. It's still 20 years from that point before the fleet is fully electric. So I think people sometimes, you know it of course, but sometimes people don't realize, like, you can't just, it's not like phones. You can't just replace all the cars and trucks overnight. No. Only the new vehicle production is only 5% the size of the fleet. And as it is right now, only a couple of percent of new car production is electric, and at least right now, no new car production is fully autonomous. But 20 years from now, probably essentially 100% electric, essentially 100% fully autonomous.
And even in the urban area, where I would say the challenge is the highest concerning autonomous.
No problem.
No problem in 20 years.
20 years? My God, you've not. I hope civilization is around in 20 years. I count that as a win.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Markus Essing.
Yeah.
Philip Morris.
Elena, we have been formulating a quite, I think, ambitious, not very humble vision to lead the way into a smoke-free future, which is, I think, pretty bold. Your vision, I think, what I learned is goes also beyond electric cars. It considers the transition to renewable energy, which I find super inspiring and the most important thing to me, also to my kids.
Yeah.
What do you think is needed? On the one hand, do we look at the, let's say, green energy options that we know today, like sun and wind, and is it decentralized, or would you build such an inspiring plant as we have seen today in a place where there's a lot of sun or wind? Or do you even look at totally new energy sources that go beyond that?
I mean, I feel quite comfortable in predicting that the vast majority of Earth's electricity generation will be solar and solar and wind, I should say. So wind has actually been, I've been surprised just how good wind has gotten. Wind power is extremely low cost. In fact, a lot of the best wind turbines are made in Germany. So the numbers are extremely good. That needs to be paired with large battery packs in order to buffer the wind power, because the wind speed changes, and sometimes it doesn't blow wind. But people want steady electricity. They don't want to just have electricity when the wind's blowing. So you have to pair wind turbines with large battery packs, and the same is with solar. You've got to buffer the solar pack, because obviously it's no sun at night, and sometimes it's very cloudy.
Do you see the growing electronic car fleet as a buffer for that, to be connected to the network, or is that unrealistic?
I mean, I certainly could be wrong about this point. The early Roadsters we made had vehicle-to-grid capability, but nobody used it. So it cost some money. Nobody was using it, so we turned it off. We can easily turn it on right now, and actually easy, especially in Europe, because of the way the connectors work. A little more, we need like maybe $100 accessory to be able to do this in the US. But I really think people want to have a home-based battery. Like I think the future that I see most likely is solar on the roof. So either where the roof itself, this roof tiles itself are solar generating, or it's solar panels retrofit on an existing roof, combined with a local battery. We have a product called the Powerwall. It's very popular. And then you need to combine that with grid level solar and wind. And then have a long distance high voltage DC connections. High voltage DC is extremely efficient at transferring electric power. No need for superconductors, in my view. Like the energy penalty for long distance electricity transmission is I squared R. So it's the current squared times resistance. So if you just increase the voltage, you can have the current be low, and then your I squared R heating is low. So you have high voltage, low current. You can transfer a tremendous amount of electricity with almost no, very tiny losses. So now you still need to pair that. I think there's other sources like hydro, geothermal. I'm actually not against nuclear. I know that some people don't like nuclear, but I think actually nuclear in a situation where there's not natural disasters is actually fine. I don't think you want to have nuclear in a place that has lots of earthquakes or tsunamis or something like that, or big hurricanes with a name. But in places where natural disasters are not a concern, I think nuclear is very safe.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kreis.
Thank you. We are working in our company also on a battery platform, completely different. My vision is that we revolutionize the do-it-yourself market. I want to have a battery in every house with a garden, that all the tools and all the garden equipment can be run on one platform. So one battery for all tools around the garden and in the house.
Okay.
The key is for sure the battery, same as in the car. We're working every day on endurance and performance, because this is what the customer requires in the car and also in tools and in garden. Yeah. The difference, I think, is we have our charger always with us.
Yeah.
And when we go all in electricity, mobility, what do you think? How fast we can charge the cars, and how long it will take us when everybody drives with an e-car to charge the battery, that we're having not a completely mess in front of the fueling stations?
Well, I think most people are going to charge their cars at home. Generally, people will charge their cars where they've charged their cell phones, and that's at home at night. This actually works fairly well with the grid usage, because the electricity usage on the grid is mostly during the day. So you don't actually need a lot of new power plants, given that people primarily charge their car at night at their house. Now, not everyone can do that. Some people park on the street or something, and that's where you need supercharger stations or charging at work. But total electricity power consumption obviously will increase. I mean, when all transport goes electric, all road transport going electric, will approximately double electricity usage, total electricity usage. Like I said, because most of it's at night, that doesn't mean a doubling of the power plants. But we will need to increase the amount of solar and wind, geothermal, hydro, nuclear. I think this is fine, like I said, in order to solve the needs of electric vehicles. My guess is that the majority of the electricity production long term will be photovoltaics, solar, and paired with batteries, obviously. That's my guess.
Yeah. Dr. Böhmann, thank you very much, of DWS.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think DWS is an investing company in big companies around the world. But I want to congratulate that you have chosen Germany for this fabric. I think might be look into the engineer space. It's a big culture in Germany. I have to say that I'm not native German, but I've grown up here, and this is a really big culture for automobile industry. And I think that you came to Germany is impressive for me by But one thing what I learned is
I love Germany. It's great.
Yeah, might be we have more time to talk in a later stage. But one thing what I would like to also learn today from you is not to be an engineer, but to think in like a physician. This is important. I think this is. I have 4 young children, so I have to advise them now a little bit differently.
I think people should have more kids.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. No,
totally.
and
no. I mean, people don't have humans. Where are the humans coming from?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, you're right.
Got to make them somehow.
Yeah, you're right.
It take a long time to boot up.
Yeah, I have 4, but I have to be carefully. The cars are too small. But again, I want to say you have revolutionized and I think had a dedication for electric cars. What is your next big thing? In your mind, you called many companies you are owning. What is you say this is a disruption you have in mind? Maybe you don't want to talk today, but it might be interesting.
I mean, first of all, my goal is not disruption for the sake of disruption. Yeah? I really think there's some important things we have to solve in order for the future to be good.
Yeah.
I would say like my sort of algorithm or optimization is like, okay, what set of things do we need to do to ensure that increase the probability that the future is going to be good?
Yeah.
And so if we have to solve sustainable energy, this is tautological. If we do not solve sustainable energy, then we have unsustainable energy. Then it's just a matter of time before before civilization collapses. We must, even if there was not an environmental issue, since the availability of oil is limited, this is not something we can sustain long term.
Yeah.
My original interest in electric vehicles was actually not environmental. It was out of concern, just studying physics, and I'm like, wait a second, we need to transition to solar electric, or we're going to have a problem, and we run out of oil, civilization collapses. That's a problem. Now, of course, the environmental concerns have added to the urgency, because the more CO2 we put in the oceans and atmosphere, the more we increase the probability that something will go wrong. Like I said, things are much more probability as opposed to certainty. But I think it's an unwise experiment to dramatically increase the CO2 in the atmosphere and oceans. Given that we know we need to transition anyway because we'll run out of oil. So why run that experiment? It doesn't make any sense. Okay. We know we have to transition to a sustainable energy economy. Then let's just get on with it. Let's just get on with it and not run the crazy experiment and see what happens if the atmosphere has 2,000 ppm CO2. This is crazy.
Okay.
Great. And
thank you.
Question. Okay. Thank you very much. And Mr. Bob.
Yeah, it's nicely related to the point you were just mentioning. So I run DHL and DHL supply chain in there, and we have quite some ambitious plans towards zero emission and optimizing the supply chain of our customers to get to that. But one of the things we obviously always face is that we also run an airline, and that's actually the biggest ambition on how do we get that carbon neutral. So I'm curious to pick your brain on that one.
Well, actually, I'm just curious, how many aircraft do you have?
Many.
A lot. Okay. So aircraft will certainly go electric. The energy density requirement to have aircraft with the reasonable range is much greater than for cars or ships. So my back-of-the-envelope calculations suggest that you need about 400 watt-hours per kilogram to have aircraft with a decent range. This is with a range where it's comfortably over 1,000 kilometers, including some reserves and emergency power and that kind of thing. And then as you go above 400 watt-hours per kilogram, it gets really better in a nonlinear way because you spend so much of your energy getting to altitude. Once you get to altitude, the air is thin and your cruise power is quite low. Yeah. So once you if you go to like 450 watt-hours per kilogram, even though it's, let's say, 460 or 480 watt-hours per kilogram, you will double the range. So even like a 20% increase, let's say, in energy density will double the range to at least 2,000 kilometers, if not more. So, and we're getting there progressively with improvements in the energy density almost every year. So this is just watt-hours per kilogram. And a lot of the improvements in energy density actually also improve the cost because you need less material because you're able to put more energy in the same amount of material, which means less material per unit of energy. Where we are right now is a little over 300 watt-hours per kilogram, and some of the very expensive cells can do over 400 watt-hours per kilogram. But the high-volume cells, I think, will start to approach 400 watt-hours a kilogram as well. So I would expect to see a significant transition to electric aircraft, starting initially with propeller planes, because they're generally more efficient per kilometer than jets, and then turboprops, and then commercial airliners and that kind of thing. That transition probably happens, I think, reasonably soon. Within the next 5 years, we should start to see electric jets.
Okay. It's fascinating.
Wow.
Thank you. Our time is almost over. Let me just finish off with just a couple of very, very short questions and very short answers. Do you still plan to go to Mars, personally?
I would like to go to Mars. The reason for SpaceX is not, if I go to Mars, that's nice to have, but what is important is that we establish a self-sustaining city on Mars. This is important for the long-term future of humanity, or consciousness as we know it. So it's less about a few people to Mars, but more about creating a self-sustaining city on Mars and humanity becoming a spacefaring civilization, which I think is incredibly inspiring for the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And very last question. You said you like Germany. For what reasons do you like Germany?
I don't know. I've always had a good time when I come here.
You studied in Munich a semester.
No, I studied German for a semester actually in Canada, oddly enough. I don't know. I do like the sort of the engineering culture, and it's hard to say exactly why do you like something, but I always have a good time, and people, I think, they really want to get things done, and I don't know, a lot of the coolest people I know are German, so I don't know. That's why I love Germany.
We leave it at that. Thank you very much for being here.
All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And this has been, thank you very much. All right. Hand of applause.
Thank you.